617. I get all my numbers all mixed up. Okay. At this point in our meeting, Ms. Adele, would you lead us in our invocation and our pledge of allegiance, please?
As you are standing, Dr. Liggins asked that I bring everybody, to everybody's attention that Leah Tellison passed away. She's a former teacher and board member. So, right, please pray with me. Lord, first we just want to ask that you would be with the Tellison family and bringing them comfort in a really difficult time, and show us how we can express gratitude for Leah's service to our district. And as far as the matters before the board tonight, first we thank you for the opportunity to serve. And for those of us who are sitting on the board tonight, we just ask for you to give us clarity and sober mind and an eye toward what's best first for the students and their achievement, and then also for the employees and the residents in our community. And we ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Next item on our agenda is the action we need to take on an item that was discussed in closed session. That is the personnel report as presented by the administration. Do I have a motion? So, thank you, Dr. Butcher. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Kelso. We have a motion and a second to approve the personnel report as presented by the administration. Is there any discussion? There being none, let's vote. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously by those persons present. Next item on our agenda is the action discussion item. Consider approval of the final budget amendment to the 2016-2017 budget.
Thank you, Madam President. Before you and on the board, we have a spreadsheet for you to consider and approve. As you will see in the first column, it has, the first is a description of each of the function codes that exist within education, public education. The second one is the actual budget the board approved in August of 2016, this time last year, and totaling a total of $807,663. The next column you will see is the amended budget approved, the amended budget in general that was actually placed into, that was actually spent. And then this final is the actual difference of what was spent. So as you will notice at the very bottom,
Can I ask one question
Yes.
before you say that? That column D, is that the column that was entered into the computer system?
yes.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, the difference is the board, it was overspent by $6.4 million. The board approved for STEM a total of $3.496 million, leaving an additional $2.9 million that was spent that was not board approved. If you will go further over to column G, that is the budget, the non-salaries for each of those. The first column is the original budget. The second column is the revised budget, meaning what was placed into the computer. The third column, I, is the actual amount spent. And the last column, column J, is the amount of funds that were the difference between the variance between the original and the actual. And again, that is strictly for non-salaries positions. Non-salaries. Moving further over, in this section is actual salaries for each of those codes. We have first the original budget that was board approved. Then we have the revised, what was placed into the computer. And then we have the actual that was spent. And then this final column is the difference between the original and what was spent. And finally, we show the total budget of what was spent, actually spent overall. And it's $47,177,947.36. Because, and this is standard practice, because of the nature of billing in general, it is also being presented a 5% variance for each of the function codes, so that should there be a bill come in next week that we realize had not been paid and had not been submitted, we will, for audit purposes, be able to pay that bill and it had been approved in this year's budget year. Should we not have that variance there and that bill were to come in and it was only these amounts were approved, we would be hit in our audit because the board did not approve that to be spent in this budget year. At this time, I will entertain any questions.
So, when you say a bill could come in and that we would need to pay that, is there not a system in place that monitors and tracks open encumbrances or commitments?
There currently is a system in place that practices that. The system before this point was not always necessarily to do that. So oftentimes a bill would be paid, or a bill would be set to be paid without the funds being encumbered, and it would simply wait until the bill came to encumber those funds. So the process that is currently in place has not necessarily been the process in prior years.
So there's a possibility we have outstanding bills to pay and we don't know what those are.
Possibly. To the tune of the $2 million extra, I would say very unlikely, because the majority of those, that final figure is from salaries, and we know we've paid out salaries. So that 5% is simply a rounded number to do so, but it would, if we did have it, it would not be to the significance of the amount there, but to place it, the 5% in every single function code came to that extra amount. But that is a possibility, yes.
So what we are being asked to approve now, just for clarification purposes, is the 2016-2017 budget. And that is so that we may pay any outstanding bills legitimate bills that we have that's coming through, so that we may pay them with the proper funds in the proper way.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
All right, so what happens if we go through and we find out, hey, we really did pay all these bills and we got this extra $2 million, that's becomes part of our fund balance, is that?
Yes, that remains in fund balance. It's not ever removed from that fund balance. It's just there in case a bill comes through.
Okay,
But it's never moved from the actual fund balance account.
all right, good deal.
As of today, what is our fund balance?
Our fund balance, as it stands before this vote today, $11,321,604.
And when you say that these numbers were put into the computer when referring to the amended budget that totals to the $47,212,000, when were those numbers put into the computer?
Well, at varying times, it's a very complicated that would require an audit that has been ordered to go through and look at the fine details of when they were put in, by whom they were put in, and all of that. The system we use, Skyward, however, does track those sorts of things, but it's a quite extensive process.
So when the board approved the 3 different amendments to fund the STEM campus, we discussed at the time that those funds were coming out of fund balance.
Yes.
And on the spreadsheet tonight, those numbers have been plugged into function 81 right
Yes.
now to be included in the budget.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question about function 35, food services. And I don't want to discuss the 2017-18 budget, but when we approved the 2017-18 budget, I kind of, somehow I got the impression that normal expenditures from that function should be around $250,000 every year. So I was expecting when I came in tonight to look at the 2016-17 amended budget, I'd see a figure somewhere around $250,000 on food services. But we only spent $59,000 this year. Do we believe that there's going to be another bill coming on that one to bring it up to around 250? Because that's kind of what is normal, or?
No, actually, after going back and researching that figure from earlier this week, that had to do with personnel that were hired by GISD, but actually in the contract, there is a clause to where we are with Chartwells. So Chartwells hires the employees. There are some employees that we hire and pay into TRS. The way the system apparently works, and this is new learning for me, so bear with me, is because they pay into TRS, they become our employees. That's been the practice. That's not, so a new employee is hired by Chartwells. Old people that have previously been in TRS are hired by GISD. Those individuals are paid by Chartwells, but supposed to be reimbursed by GISD because they're paying into TRS. Does that answer your question?
Are you explaining why 2016-17 was 59,000, or are you explaining why 2017-18 is 250,000? I understand your explanation.
Okay.
I'm just not sure which year it's an explanation for.
It seems like it would be for 2017-18
18.
because
This
those
is
columns,
actual, yes.
the columns on this spreadsheet under salary for that function are blank. So is that part of the recoding that happened?
The rate. For the 2017-18 school year, the way it works is those employees are paid by Chartwells. Previously, no, that's the exact opposite. 2017-18, they're being paid by us so that there will not be a reimbursement to Chartwells.
And that's why 2017-18 is
It's
so,
small. Yes,
is way high.
yes,
Because now we've switched the way we
Yes.
used to do it. And now, okay,
yes, sir.
all right, good.
I have a question on function 34, student transportation. Over under salaries, and maybe this is a coding thing too, but we never anticipated paying anything in salaries for student transportation, and then we revised it. And then I just don't understand how that could have ever been the assumption, unless it's a coding thing.
I think I know why the revision is there. That's the last amendment that we did when we were having all the salary problems. When we shifted budget from one function to this one. But you've got a great question. We never.
Surely we assumed we were gonna pay some salaries.
You would have thought.
Right.
I'm looking at the original budget. There was about $1.08 million in the original budget.
Right.
It was amended to 1.16. I do believe that that is simply an error right there. That should, because that number over on the far right, or the far left, I'm sorry, shows what the original budget was and what the amended was. And so I believe once we just got to, you should actually take that 1.8 and subtract the 259,000 that's in the non-salaries. So numbers should actually
But
been in the original.
that's $1 million that were then not indeed in the hole, because there is no variance to the actual.
No, he's saying that blank there under original.
Yeah, that blank is,
Should have a number.
Should have a number, right, so, but that's what I'm saying, if there should be a number there and it should be close to the actual, there would be no variance to the actual.
She's right.
So, I'm just saying, that's $1 million that we're not really in the hole, if there really is supposed to be a number.
Can you come tomorrow and look at the rest of the books? She's found $1 million, kids.
Well, I mean, it just jumps out, it's looking strange. We actually spent 1.1, and the variance to actual is 1.1.
I agree. That last column is probably a formula, and it's picking up
It's
the
yeah,
zero,
it's
and if
messing
there
up.
was the real number
Right.
there, we'd pick it up, and we'd have $1 million.
yes, transportation. Let's take a look at that, Ms. Butcher, I apologize. It's 34.
So for the year April, student transportation was budgeted here. And you subtract the actual salaries. And subtract the actuals here. Right? Put any more adjustment? No. So then that gives us. That's what we budgeted. And then it's over here to original C18's original budget. C18's original budget, and we subtract I-18 from actual, and that came out to be 1 million. We revised down, but we spent over.
It's really, I think that changed the whole number. So it went down to 2.9. And how does that switch this salary then? That went from 2 to 3. This was a 3. So that number changes. What's the formula?
That's total budget.
I think the only thing that changed though is the column variance.
Yeah, we
You're
did
right.
this.
Yeah.
Nothing
It
else
did change
really
the bottom
changed.
number.
It just makes it.
It would seem
makes
to
the
me
variance
that
look better.
whenever you receive budget, you have some that goes into the non-salary, some that goes into the salary. It seems to me the salary didn't get plugged into the spreadsheet.
Okay. Clark, which is right, it was not included in there, but it changed that variance original to actual, but did not change the total expended.
Okay.
So it's still the exact same numbers that was expended. It just did not for that particular column, and I do apologize for that error. But it doesn't change that, but the final numbers.
Okay, do we have any additional questions regarding the, request to approve the final M&O budget for 2016-2017?
I have a question. Just throw it out there. What would happen if we as a board did not approve this revised budget?
It would basically impact us in our financial first rating, which would make it basically, we could go as, have a very bad financial rating, and similar to how we have our accountability ratings. Because ultimately what would occur is it would still have to be paid, but it would not be paid out of the right functions, which would, I'm sure, here, bad audit. This overspending itself does not impact it because there's funding in the fund balance to cover it. But had there not been money in the fund balance, it would have been a completely different story.
Aren't we still going to get dinged on our audit because of not having everything board approved?
Mr. Dan, you want to speak to that? The question was, will we still be dinged on our audit for not having everything board approved?
If you spend the money and don't have board approval on it, you can get dinged on it, yeah. If that's the question.
Yes. No.
I'm gonna,
The overage that was already done, that was not board approved.
Correct.
Not that if they don't approve it now, because the administration spent more than board approved be spent. Although they're approving it tonight.
Yeah.
Does that impact that it was not done until tonight? Does that impact?
No, there's no penalty for that,
Okay.
because you have until midnight tonight to pass an amended budget for this past year. If you do it tomorrow, it doesn't count when the auditor comes in. And as the superintendent's indicated, the auditors are back in the back room now. Today and tomorrow beginning their work. And I can guarantee you that they will find issues with some things. They do. I've never been through an audit that there hasn't been a good number of audit adjustments. This is going to, this action, if you take it and approve it, will allow the auditors to see that you have approved pretty much whatever happens, if something adverse happens between now and midnight tonight, or that you have to do after tonight, it would count, if it counted towards this particular fiscal year. So you will be protected on that.
Okay, we have now a request to approve the final maintenance and operation M&O budget for 2016 and 2017 as presented. Do I have a motion? Second call, do I have a motion?
I so move.
And Ms. Stafford did, you want a second, Mr. Kelso?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the final M&O budget for 2016, 2017 as presented. Is there any further discussion?
I just have a request. Could we be given Monday, could we be given another, or Tuesday, thank you, Trina, after Labor Day, could we be given an updated version of this, just to show that none of this 5% has been used this evening? I don't know if that just to make sure that that's been protected just for the contingency that it's intended for.
I don't quite understand the question.
I just want to make sure that it doesn't convey that we're approving an additional $2 million of expenditure just for anything at all.
So you're requesting?
Maybe that's not the right thing to request. Maybe that's not the right product to request. But I would like to request that we be assured in some way that this far right column adding 2%, that adds that 5% to the budget will only be used for future bills that come in. I want to make sure that it doesn't convey that we're just approving an additional spending of.
Yes, what I can assure you, should we get any bills in beyond this, it will be brought to the board's attention.
And by this, do you mean?
The total expenditures that are approved at this moment. So anything, should we have to go into the 5% column, it will come to the board attention. Does it require approval because it's being approved tonight? If it'll come to the attention that it was actually utilized.
So
But-
anything more than 47 million, that column, the 47,177,000?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
And anything that we do pay from, if it's over that amount, over that 47 million, if we do pay that, it has to be for a legitimate 2016, 2017 purchase. It cannot be for anything for the current year.
I know that probably had a hint of skepticism and suspicion to my question, but I just wanted to
I'm fine.
be, okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
That the money is going to be held in fund balance unless we need it to write it.
Yeah.
So that's where it stays, hopefully.
Okay. I got a question that doesn't have anything to do with all of this. I need to know what, once again, the figures for a healthy fund balance. What do we need for a healthy fund balance?
And Mr. Downey can speak to this more, but it is a general understanding, not necessarily a rule, that 90 days of expenses. So, our expenses, if we run about, within budget, we should spend about $3 million every
30 days?
every 30 days, a little over 3 million. Mr. Dam, do you want to add to that?
Well, if I understand the question, I think your response speaks to that. The issue of, I'm not sure, go back and restate that if you would.
Well, my question was, and it doesn't have anything, is what is it now that is considered a healthy fund balance by TEA or whatever? What is the dollar amount?
It's normally pegged at about 3 months operating expense.
All right.
And with a $40 million budget, your operating expenses are roughly $3.5 to $4 million. And so you're right on the cusp now. If it were to go below that, at some point in time, probably this coming year, it could impact your first rating.
Okay, that was okay. So we're talking about,
Does it impact the first rating?
At what point does it impact the fund rating, Mr. Dam?
What does it go to?
At what point would it impact the first rating?
For this coming year, which will be based on the audit report that's underway right now. It will come to you in either December or probably in January, again, for your consideration of reviewing the actual work that the auditors are beginning today and doing.
So if I look at all of these numbers correctly, currently our fund balance is at 11.3 million. We have an overrun of the 6.4, which is going to bring us down to about 4.9 million. If we're running about 3.4 a month, we need to maintain 10.2 in there. So less than half of what we need is going to be in fund balance if all of this pans out to be true and we don't find any extra funds somewhere. With that being said, us only having a little bit over a month for fund balance, what is that going to do to us as far as the first rating goes?
But by the time you get your auditors in here to do the detail work, which will happen in November, everything for this present fiscal year will be closed or liquidated, and it will fall back into fund balance. So the fund balance will be adjusted back to actual when the auditors complete their work.
What I'm trying to ask is if this is the true worst case scenario, and we don't find any additional funding and our fund balance is reduced to $4.9 million, does that impact our first rating?
It could if that were to happen, but that is highly unlikely with anything. I've never seen an audit where there is that order of magnitude of adjustment by the auditors, because what you have spent now, as been pointed out, you're in balance, but we're looking at a conservative approach to get through the next month to make sure that the board has adopted a budget that accommodates anything that the auditors might charge back against it.
Are you saying that the $11 million fund balance that we currently have is the balance after the $6 million?
No.
Okay, that's what it was sort of sounding like you were saying.
No.
No. All right.
Here's the way I'm looking at it, and I'm not understanding it quite just right. Help me out, Leslie. Our total expenditures are $47 million. We've already spent that, correct?
Yes.
That's gone. We've spent that.
Yes.
So 11.3 million in the fund balance, that's real money. That's there.
Yes.
We've already paid all our bills except for the outstanding, and we're reserving 5% of 47 million, which is about 2.3 million. So let's say the worst case, we go all the way to 49 million. That means we'll have to take 2.3 million out of the 11.3, dropping it down to 9 million, which is 90 days, covers a 90-day budget.
Well, I guess I didn't ask my question well. That's what I just asked. We've already taken the $6 million out of fund balance. So the 11 million is after the overage has already been.
No, the 11
How is that?
million,
That's what he just said.
That is what I just said. That's what I understood.
no, the 11 million is what we have in the bank right now.
Right.
After the board approves tonight, the overage will be taken from that 11 million.
How much overage?
The $6.4 million.
So the 47 million is not all paid yet.
These
Well,
are
it's
just-
been spent,
Oh, but not, I thought.
not taken
I
out of
thought
the
that
bank.
we actually.
No, we've committed to, we've received the services.
We've encumbered it.
Yes, it's been encumbered and now it's time to pay the,
All right,
the
I'm
bill.
moving down.
Yes, we're looking at about a month and a half worth to cover operating expenses.
And
They
the-
want us to have 3
Three.
months worth. So I think the question that I was trying to ask is, do we get deemed in an audit for not maintaining that?
and I don't know the answer to that and I will find out and let you know by tomorrow.
The reason why I'm asking, if we're deemed anyway, if we're already being impacted,
Those are two different sections on the first, we get dinged on two different sections of it. We'd be dinged, my understanding, we'd be dinged for not having this budget in place and the budget amendment in place, and then we'd also get dinged for having the fund balance that's too low. Rather than only getting dinged once for having your fund balance, am I correct, Mr. Dillon?
Yes, but again, looking at the probability of all of these functional categories going over by the 5% is somewhere between slim and none. But it is to cover, to make sure that each individual function, it is covered if there's an overrun in that function.
Right.
But we know that there will, most of them will not be overrun anywhere near the amount you're putting in extra. It's strictly a precautionary matter that will be, by the time the auditors get through, that money will be closed and all of the outstanding money that is not actually spent when they audit it and do their testing and everything will flow back into fund balance when they actually close. Your audit will reflect an adjusted number from this that you're adopting. This is a temporary solution to make sure it's a protection, it's an insurance policy.
And I suppose that the audit will show this and we're gonna vote just immediately, but Mr. Dam, can you explain to me, and even through all this process, I still don't understand how it is that there were $6,404,695 that was spent, and we didn't know anything about that. How did that happen, and how did we get, and maybe, I don't know if you have that.
No, that's a very valid question, and it's a question that the administration has been looking at. Dr. Liggins and I have had many conversations with regard to that going forward, because, you know, he's finishing up 5 months, I'm finishing up 2 months, and we're starting fresh. And with the new CFO coming on board at the end of 1st of October, the plans are in place to do it better than it has been done. And moving ahead, that will continue with Ms. Reeves to make sure that a year from now, there will be a lot of things done differently. And that's a transition. I'm the 3rd CFO in this fiscal year, another one coming in next month. And Dr. Liggins is the 2nd superintendent, and who was only here for 5 months of the year when most of the decisions that were made previously.
Okay, yeah, and I'm not here to really throw anybody on the bus, because I don't know enough about what happened here. However, what you're telling me is that going forward, that won't happen again.
Yes, I'm telling you
That
that will not happen again. The way Texas finances work, our reputation is such that we pay our bills. So, so when you're ordering things, when you're getting things, unlike a personal household where you have to pay up front, quite often a company will say, absolutely, we'll do it. And the services are rendered. Because we're a school district and the expectation is, well, they'll pay us when we're done with it. Whereas in a personal household budget, it's okay, well, where's your credit card, and then we'll do the services. So what has occurred is things have been ordered and people have been hired. In fact, looking at the amount overspent and the actual salary overspent by 1.9 million. The raise that was brought to the board last year was never budgeted to be paid for either. And so, so you have those situations in place to where it was, the board was told what the board was told, and things were done that didn't necessarily come to the board's attention that probably should have. It's my very simplistic understanding at this point without an audit to really look at those things clearly.
Isn't the audit going to point out if we're in error too? If the board made errors, will the audit point any of that out as well?
Yes, the audit, there's 2 audits that are happening. We have an annual audit that just happens automatically. And then we have an audit coming in that's auditing the audit plus our numbers. So there's 2 different audits we're talking about. The one audit that goes back to every year up to this year, we've had clean audits for the most part, for lack of better words. And so the audit firm that before any of this was found out has already been hired that's done those previous audits to do this coming year's audit. But we've ordered a special audit from TASBO that will audit the audits plus audit what we're doing currently this closeout of this year.
Is that what's called a forensic audit?
I'm not exactly sure, but it's auditing the audits. It very well may be.
Okay, good.
Is there any point, or would it help health matters to go into our investment pool and pull out some money to put in fund balance in order to get it up to that 3-month?
Our investment fund balance is 2.4 million. So, and I'm not sure what the actual rules are and how they can be utilized, but that is definitely something I can look into.
If I may add, that the amount of money in the investment pools is dedicated by the operating fund and by the debt service fund. So those funds are already included in your financial reports. Taking them out of the audit, the investment pools would not change that here or help you with anything to do that. All the money is all the money. It's like if you have a savings account, if you have a retirement account, if you have an income account.
So it's just be moving it from one place to the other. Okay.
It's not going to have any impact on your financial status, because the money is easily transferable.
Okay,
Let me be sure I understand, because I had spin, I want to just make sure I got this, I heard it right. Once we approve this, tomorrow morning, you'll pull X amount of dollars over from the fund balance to pay all those bills that we haven't paid to people, like you were talking about. They gave us services, but we haven't paid for them yet.
Yes.
And how much is that? What is that fee?
That is the
37.
370284.
Is
36.
Is some of that 6.37 coming from salary variances?
Yes.
How could that be? You just said we paid all our salaries. I thought you said earlier.
That we're not talking about real money. We're talking about, it's almost like credit. Yeah. So we don't actually have money in the bank, then we pay it, money in the bank and pay it. You have this general amount and you pay it. For example, the 3.4 of that is STEM, that all those services have been conducted, but nothing has been paid as of yet.
Are these salaries that we've paid, the money we've paid to salaries, we gave them real money, right?
Yes.
Just checking.
And it also includes invoices that have not come in yet for services that were rendered in this current fiscal year.
Right.
And that's why, because they're all compartmentalized, you do a worst case scenario, which is the 5% to each of the functions. And that adds up to a number that is way larger than there would ever be an amount to have to reach.
Have we reached out to all of our contractors and vendors and requested that they send us any open
We've
invoices?
done that for several months.
Okay,
And we have also talked with staff about making sure that they put pressure on people who haven't invoiced us yet to make sure either send us an invoice or send us a credit rating and we'll send the stuff back.
We're pretty confident that the 5%, well, if it's touched, it will be extremely minimal, because a lot of cleanup has gone into trying to get all the bills in, get them all paid. But that doesn't mean, we still have to have a contingency in case we look up and in October someone says, you ordered books from us and we never got our bill from it. And, it slipped through the cracks. So that is something that it's just a wise practice to say this 5% contingency to do that.
And remember too, that any invoices that come in for services that were not included or not ordered and delivered in this past month, will go to the New Year's budget. And staff has already been told that as an encouragement to them to make sure they put pressure to get those invoices in, delivered now in this year where they have money, so they don't have to take it out of next year's money.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to approve the final M&O budget for 2016-2017 as presented. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously by those persons present.
Madam President, trustees, thank you for doing that. This is not the position we wanted to find ourselves in at this point. I do understand that there were quite a bit that did not come to your attention until some digging had occurred. But I want to have everyone rest assured we are working as an administrative team to ensure that in the future that we have tight systems in place and that we move forward and with transparency in all things. I think bringing on a new CFO that will be that was approved earlier this week will make a huge difference with her huge amount of experience that she's bringing. And I think moving forward, we're looking forward to having a very productive year, still keeping our focus on student achievement and financial and fiscal responsibility. So as we move forward, we hope to see things improve considerably.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask a question, Ms. Haynes? Is that okay?
Yeah.
With the new CFO, I understand we're hoping to see some, without a doubt, improved reporting, but also some different types of reporting. She had alluded, I think, to some cash flow reports.
Yes.
So does that mean, just for like a lay person, does that mean we'll see a balance sheet, do you think, when we get our monthly?
It should be.
Now?
I've informed her that due to our current situation, I would like to be very transparent with the board and give you more information than necessary or that's required by law, by simply showing where we are at any given point each month during our regular board meetings. So that would include an expenditure, and as you know, things change. We report it, if we print it on Monday before the board meeting, by Tuesday it will have changed, but you will know as of Monday, that's where we were.
And it's going to include anticipated expenses too. We're going to encumber.
Yeah,
so that we
everything
can.
will be encumbered immediately upon approval of purchase.
Is there anything else to come before this board? There being none, I think this meeting is adjourned, and thank you very much. I appreciate all of the questions, all of the information, everything that we have gotten done tonight. I thank you very much. We are adjourned.
We live in a world of technology. We're always connected. Everything is based on technology. What do you do when your technology breaks down? You call Digital Solutions. Located on Wesley Street in Greenville, Digital Solutions Technology Partners is there to get you fixed up. From business support to home computer repair, Digital Solutions Technology Partners will get your tech issues resolved. Visit us online at www.techresolve.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/DSTPI. You can call our office at 903-259-6418.